The tale begins with Eriko Rin, a girl with a dragon-like appearance who is seen as a world-ending threat. After being caught and tried by the court, her execution is looming unless there's any last-minute objection. The verdict is in, and she's scheduled to meet her end in 24 hours. To the world, Rin is the ultimate troublemaker that needs to be dealt with for peace to reign. However, one individual is fighting for mercy, arguing that saving as many lives as possible is the way to go. Rin's destiny hangs in the balance, with the outcome not just affecting her, but the fate of the entire universe. Meanwhile, life at a distant school carries on, completely oblivious to the chaos unfolding globally. The vice president of the student council, Desai Ryunosuke, is alone in his office. Exhausted but satisfied, he removes his shirt and begins admiring his muscular body, proud of the hard work he has put into his training. His dream of becoming a god of the gym drives him, and in that moment, he celebrates the results of his efforts. However, his moment of peace is abruptly interrupted by his assistant, Abara Vladimiri, who enters the office without knocking. Frustrated by her sudden arrival, Desai reminds her, yet again, that she needs to knock before entering. Their interaction is playful yet contentious, as Mary questions why Desai insists on calling her by her full name rather than simply Mary, as she prefers. Despite the lighthearted exchange, there is a subtle tension between them. Mary quickly shifts the conversation and proposes that they take a trip to Sapporo during the upcoming school break, offering to handle all expenses herself. She simply asks that Desai be ready to join her. As this conversation unfolds, two more members of the student council enter the office, Ijiruji Aya, the council's secretary and one of Desai's childhood friends, and Ajita Renko, the senior student council president. Their arrival adds an awkward layer of tension to the room, especially when they notice how close Mary is to Desai. Ajita, ever the rule enforcer, points out that they, as student council members, are meant to be role models for the entire school and should refrain from inappropriate behavior. Ijiruji agrees, suggesting that any such conduct should not be tolerated even outside the school. While Mary brushes off their concerns with teasing remarks, Desai grows increasingly frustrated. In an attempt to change the subject, he asks about the whereabouts of Owari, the council's accountant. Ijiruji replies that she isn't sure, as Owari might be absent again. Ajita, taking advantage of the situation, reminds Desai about the green link documents he was supposed to complete. He reassures her that the documents are finished and submitted, which impresses Ajita. She then asks if he could take on some of Owari's tasks as well, given the frequent absences, and Desai agrees, once again proving his reliability. Throughout this, Mary grows more and more frustrated. As the president's assistant, she feels overlooked, complaining that no one ever assigns her any work. Desai seems to handle everything on his own, leaving her without a clear role. Desai calmly responds that he only takes on tasks within his capacity and performs his duties with ease. Yet Mary remains discontent, struggling to find something to admire about him despite his competence. Seeing Mary's frustration, Ijiruji offers to give her some accounting work to keep her occupied for the rest of the evening. But Mary, already having plans, declines the offer. Her frustrations persist, adding a layer of personal tension within the group. As the scene unfolds, the relationships between them reveal a delicate balance between duty and personal desires. While Desai is efficient and reliable, the playful yet strained interactions between him, Mary, Ajita, and Ijiruji expose the underlying complexities of their dynamic. Unaware of the looming threat of Eriko Rin's execution hangs in the background, an ever-present reminder of the larger world and the stakes outside their school lives. Desai casually asks Ebara Mary if she's working, and she hints that girls have secrets, advising him to reflect on his actions. Her words hit home, especially when Ajita recalls borrowing money from him, making Desai realize everyone might be taking advantage of his kindness. Frustrated, he declares he genuinely enjoys helping others, while Mary, amused, suggests his helpful nature will soon land him in serious trouble. Meanwhile, far from the school's concerns, an external spacecraft hovers above an area once inhabited by Eriko Rin, the Dragon Girl. Two agents, tasked with observing her, wear special suits complete with helmets to protect them from the dangers of their mission. Their task is to oversee the safe transport of Rin, an operation that feels as dangerous as trying to control lions. One of the agents, who is new to this kind of work, is warned by his partner, Kuroi, to be cautious. Kuroi admits that transporting Rin is far more difficult and perilous than anything he's experienced before, far more than merely hunting lions with guns. The new agent, puzzled by the situation, questions whether their weapons would even be effective against the Dragon Girl. Frustrated, his partner accuses the new agent of not fully understanding the mission details, despite his review. Together, they grapple with the reality of handling a monster, a dragon girl with striking looks and horns. She hears the crashing sound of an attack from two people on the ground. Based on intelligence from an operative codenamed Loki, they'd planned an ambush, carefully selecting a crash site for the plane carrying Rin. The mission's goal is to prevent Rin from causing further harm, with the ultimate punishment set to freeze her for eternity. As they work, the agents report that 96% of the population in the area has already been evacuated and communication systems have been fully secured. Their objective is clear: they must retrieve the Dragon Princess and ensure the past mistakes of their own people are not repeated. Back in a seemingly more mundane setting, Desai is making his way home when his phone begins buzzing with notifications. Exhausted, he scrolls through the messages, realizing they concern the very case he's been hearing about, the case of Eriko Rin. The news reports focus on her impending death penalty, and the public comments are polarized. Some express sympathy, calling the punishment for the Dragon Girl heartless, while others argue that the outcome is justified, questioning the legal system that brought them to this point. One comment catches Desai's attention, bluntly stating that there are simply some people in this world who are better off dead. Reflecting on this harsh reality, Desai feels a growing sense of helplessness. He recalls Abara Mary's warning not to offer help to just anyone, a reminder that even someone with the best intentions cannot save everyone. As Desai continues walking, his thoughts are interrupted by a sudden flash of thunder. Confused and unable to make sense of the situation, he feels a growing sense of unease. Thunder crashes above, and before Desai can react, a heavy container slams to the ground in front of him, unleashing a deafening sound and a fierce gust of wind. Stunned, he peers into the container and finds himself face to face with a girl. No, a dragon girl with striking beauty and horns adorning her head, exactly as the reports had described. Her presence is powerful and undeniable. Desai instantly realizes he has come face to face with Eriko Rin, the very creature condemned to die. Desai Ryunosuke finds himself in an unimaginable situation, face to face with Eriko Rin, a dragon-like girl with towering horns, wings that lend her an ethereal presence, and a long scaled tail gleaming in the dim light. The scene feels surreal, and just as he tries to comprehend it, Rin calls out, asking for his help. Confused and unsure of why she would address him, Desai is puzzled. However, Rin directs him to a rod that has been stabbed into her back, asking him to pull it out. Hesitantly, Desai agrees, realizing that despite her fearsome appearance, she is in pain and in need of help. As he grips the rod and prepares to pull it out, he questions whether she is all right, and she reassures him to just remove it in one strong motion. Gathering his resolve, he pulls, and Rin lets out a scream of agony, her pain evident. But with the rod finally dislodged, she exhales in relief, the burden of the injury lifted from her body. Curious and still in disbelief, Desai tries to make sense of the situation, questioning whether Rin is a real, living creature. He reaches out to confirm for himself, but before he can touch her, she angrily snaps at him to stop. Furious at his actions, she warns him not to touch her without permission. In her attempt to push him away, their bodies briefly make contact, and he is suddenly overwhelmed by an intense, searing heat. The pain causes him to cry out, confusion and shock clouding his thoughts. Just then, a girl arrives, quickly assessing the scene and instantly identifying Rin as the dragon they'd been tracking. Her eyes narrow as she spots Desai with Rin, noting his involvement. Without pause, she radios in, reporting an unidentified civilian and confirming she'll take control of the situation. Recognizing Abara's voice, Desai spins around, surprised yet relieved to see her. He calls out to her, but she coldly tells him to turn around and follow protocol. Mary, known for her strict adherence to rules, remains unfazed by the chaotic scene before her. She approaches Desai and demands an explanation, but he is more interested in understanding how Mary seems to know so much about Rin. When he asks if she had prior knowledge, Mary shuts him down, stating that she doesn't have the authority to explain everything to him. Rin, meanwhile, is growing more frustrated with their casual conversation. Feeling disrespected, she interrupts, furious at the way they are ignoring her presence. She demands to know if Abara Mary is some sort of fantasy girl. She responds with a cryptic remark as her irritation grows. But she admits to being a fantasy girl, vampire. The two exchange names, with Mary repeating Rin's name in a mocking tone before admitting that, despite her disdain, she finds a beautiful name. The tension between the two escalates, and Desai, sensing a confrontation, becomes anxious. He fears that a fight is about to break out between the two powerful beings. Rin declares that this is not merely a fight, but a war. She calls Abara Mary the Death Queen, acknowledging her as a formidable opponent. Mary, however, is unfazed by the title and thanks Rin for waiting. She reveals more of her true nature, unveiling herself as an element of armament, a powerful entity designed for combat. Desai, already overwhelmed by the surreal events, is stunned to learn that Mary possesses such extraordinary abilities. Mary proudly confirms her identity as the Queen of Death, a fantasy fighter equipped with special armaments, and challenges Rin to prepare for battle. Rin, however, dismisses the need for Mary's armaments. Mary, slightly taken aback, questions whether Rin truly believes she can win without such weapons. She taunts Rin, reminding her that as a creature drugged with inhibitors and sentenced to death, Rin should be at a disadvantage. She implies that Rin's resistance is futile, but she remains defiant, stating that the difference in their situations does not make this battle unfair. Mary acknowledges Rin's reasoning, and though begrudgingly, seems to respect her determination. She warns Rin, however, that if she surrenders, she will be treated with leniency. She scoffs at the idea, accusing Mary of daydreaming and noting her sharp tongue. The exchange between the two intensifies as Rin's anger flares. She mocks Mary, commenting on her high nose and suggesting that it would be cuter if it were flattened. With a smirk, she declares that she'll crush her to make her appearance more adorable. This insult sends Mary into a fury. Her composure shatters as she vows to eliminate Rin for her disrespect. As the two stand face to face, the tension in the air thickens. The battle between the Dragon Girl, Rin, and the vampire, Abara Mary, erupts in a flurry of fierce clashes. Desai, caught in the middle, can barely comprehend what is happening. As Mary prepares to strike, he shouts in confusion, fearful of the imminent violence. Mary, however, remains resolute, launching her weapon with cold precision. Her goal is clear, to capture Rin alive, although she vows to handle the situation with gentleness. Yet even with the best intentions, her grip slips slightly as she apologizes in advance for what may come. Rin, understanding that Mary is wielding a polearm, instinctively moves in closer, aiming to negate the weapon's advantage by reducing the distance between them. However, Mary surprises her by transforming the polearm's shape mid-battle, turning it into a more versatile weapon capable of piercing her target with deadly precision. With a swift and powerful strike, Mary attacks Rin, unleashing a force that scatters the air and sends dust and smoke swirling around them. The impact is brutal, and Rin crashes to the ground. Despite the violence of the blast, Rin's hardened tail absorbs most of the shock, preventing serious injury. Desai, still reeling from the chaotic scene, watches in disbelief as Mary continues her assault. He struggles to reconcile this terrifying warrior with the Mary he knows. Shouting at her, he demands to know what she's doing, and why she is acting this way. Mary, holding her polearm with unwavering confidence, dismisses his concerns, stating that Rin is no real threat to her. In her mind, Rin is an easy opponent to defeat. Rin, however, groans in pain, acknowledging the impact of Mary's attacks. Mary wonders aloud if the suppressants meant to weaken Rin are finally taking effect. She concludes that it's more than just the drugs, though, and while she sympathizes with Rin's suffering, she insists that it is her duty to subdue her, regardless of the cost. As Rin lies on the ground, Desai rushes to her side, pulling her up and asking if she's okay. His concern angers Mary, who shouts at him to step back and let her handle the situation. Desai, equally furious, refuses to listen. He reminds her that, as her senior, he cannot allow her or anyone else to kill, no matter the circumstances. He insists that violence isn't the answer, urging her to sit down and talk things through instead. Mary roars at him to stay out of it, but before she can act, the arrival of the bloodshed cavalry disrupts the scene. They call for Rin to be pursued, further escalating the tension. The sudden order stuns Mary, and she turns to Desai, questioning why he always acts this way, why he always seems to interfere at the worst times. Blood is already being shed, and it's clear that Rin won't be allowed to escape. Rin, frustrated and cornered, yells at Desai, demanding to know why he's helping her. If she's too weak to face her fate, then maybe she deserves to die, she argues. Desai responds with calm conviction, reminding her that she's already been sentenced to execution. But at this moment, his goal is to help others, to save as many as possible, even if it means risking everything. Rin pauses, realizing that Desai is unlike anyone else she's encountered. He isn't just an innocent bystander caught up in the chaos. He's willingly chosen to involve himself in this fight. Desai offers her his hand, a gesture of solidarity, indicating that he's found a way for them to escape the situation. However, he is clearly in pain from his earlier injuries, and Rin, sensing his distress, asks if there's anything she can do to help him. Desai, frustrated but firm, tells her that while he appreciates the offer, he cannot condone killing Mary or anyone else. Rin accepts his terms, and with a hint of curiosity, she asks him one more question. Is he certain about his path? Desai affirms his resolve, and in response, Rin, with a touch of defiance, makes a bold proposition. If he's that sure of himself, will he marry her? Rin managed to escape from the chaotic battlefield with a swift flight, leaving Mary seething with rage. She believes that Rin couldn't have gone far given her injuries, and she sets out to capture her. As she reaches a new location, Mary is taken aback by the sight before her. The bodies of her knights lie scattered, blood staining the ground. Having tracked them down, the sheer scale of the defeat exceeds her expectations, raising doubts about how Rin could have overpowered them all alone. Mary begins to wonder if the suppressants meant to weaken Rin have worn off, granting her newfound strength. Just then, Mary notes a ring on her senpai's finger. Earlier, Desai is completely blindsided by Rin's sudden marriage proposal. Bewildered, he wonders how anyone could think about tying the knot in the middle of such danger. He considers her motive. Maybe she plans to eat him as a wedding feast for some dragon ritual. He shudders at the thought as he doesn't want to die as lunch. She brushes off his concerns, asserting that daydreaming is far removed from their current reality. She places her hands on his shoulders, grounding the moment as she reveals a ring she wears, a symbol of their bond. She explains that the ring serves a dual purpose. It is both a blessing and a curse, a binding contract that would pave their path together. Rin assures Desai that everything will be all right, promising to protect him with her entire being. She urges him not to reject this union, emphasizing that they will take care of each other, supporting one another through all circumstances. Together, they pledge to stand by each other until death parts them, ready to fight through whatever injuries may come. With their commitment solidified, both Rin and Desai loudly declared their intention to uphold this contract, their voices filled with conviction. Rin's smile widens as if she has achieved a significant milestone. In the present, she declares having become the apex predator of their world and offers Mary a taste of her fury. Mary laughs in response, amazed that their link truly exists. She eagerly anticipates the opportunity to see the strength of their soul-linking technique in action. Demonstrating her impressive skills, Rin showcases her abilities, wielding her weapons with ease and grace. Without hesitation, she launches an attack, declaring her determination to finish what she started. Rin, aware of the danger, cautions Desai to keep his distance. However, her assault is fierce and delivers severe damage to Mary. Caught off guard, Mary barely activates her defensive mode in time, forcing her to surrender momentarily as she collapses to her knees. Despite her initial defeat, she rises again, refusing to accept defeat. The Dragon Princess asserts the power of their link and is determined to harness it. Mary, visibly frustrated, orders Rin to cease her efforts, proclaiming that her remaining knights are far more formidable than those Rin had previously defeated. Mary's taunts only fuel Rin's resolve, as she insists that her own defensive capabilities are strong enough to withstand whatever Mary throws at her. Rin reveals that she has already judged Mary's actions, and together with Desai, they will defeat her. A magical circle forms in the air around Rin, an indication of her formidable powers, but she declares that they are not finished yet. She asserts that if Desai stops pursuing her, she will sever their link, a risk she seems willing to take. Desai, however, clarifies that he helped her not to eliminate Mary, but to protect her as a junior. He offers to switch sides without hesitation if Rin lays a hand on Mary, showcasing his desire for cooperation rather than conflict. Rin finds Desai's innocence amusing as she contemplates her next move. Mary faints, appearing to fall into a trance. Desai expresses his surprise and concern, asking if she is all right. Suddenly, the situation escalates further when soldiers descend from helicopters, ordering both Rin and Desai to put their hands up and kneel. Desai is overwhelmed by the rapid succession of events, struggling to grasp the unfolding chaos. One soldier steps forward, announcing that they have successfully contained a rampant third factor, which leaves Desai bewildered. As a soldier, the president approaches, wielding a stick emitting a bright light that temporarily blinds Desai. Just as confusion sets in, a wave of drowsiness washes over him, making it hard to focus. The president's voice comes softly, expressing gratitude. Desai feels the world around him blur as he succumbs to the strange light. the chaos fading into darkness. He awakens on a bed, disoriented and surrounded by a haze of recent memories. As he opens his eyes, he realizes that he is tied up with ropes, which adds to his confusion. Just then, a physician named Sarashina Sao enters the room, greeting Desai with a calm good morning. Sao introduces himself as the caretaker and research physician at the facility, explaining that the ropes are a necessary precaution. He reassures Desai that he will be untied once the check is complete and expresses gratitude for his cooperation. Sao mentions that the acting chief will be arriving shortly to speak with him. Desai, still trying to grasp his surroundings, inquires about where he is. Ajita pops out from behind the curtains with an answer, scaring them. The doctor bids goodbye to the acting chief Ajita, warning her not to play with the curtains before leaving the room. Alone, Ajita and Desai sit together on the bed. He asks her to confirm that everything he experienced was real, and she assures him it was. She explains that his world has changed beyond recognition, and that he can't simply ignore the past or return to his former life. Desai reflects on this, and then tells her he's mentally prepared to face this new reality. She signals for him to come closer, eager to share something important. After confirming he can walk on his own, she breathes a sigh of relief and escorts him out of the room. They arrive at the National Special Disaster Research Institute, where they study fantasy factors and the mystical beings who possess them. She reveals that the Institute's mission is to protect, manage, contain, and ensure the well-being of these fantasy beings. Intrigued, Desai prods her to explain further. She discloses that both Abara and Rin fall into this category. He is relieved to know they are doing fine. Ajita goes on to clarify that fantasy factors are traits of mythical creatures like dragons and vampires, which no longer exist in the modern world. Dragons are known for their long tails, while vampires rock some killer sharp fangs. Desai wonders aloud if boys can have the dreamy qualities usually seen in girls. Ajita replies that while these traits are more common in female forms, they can appear in others too. Curious, Desai asks if guys can truly acquire them. She confirms, noting that all fantasy girls were once ordinary humans before gaining their enchanting traits. She even hints that she herself could transform into something mystical. The revelation leads Desai to wonder if hidden fantasy girls exist in the world. Ajita corrects him, explaining that recent records identify only 7 known fantasy factors on Earth: unicorn, amorphous, dragon, phoenix, vampire, werewolf, and succubus. Each factor can transfer between hosts, though she notes the phoenix factor hasn't appeared in over a decade. Desai falls silent for a moment, absorbing this information before asking the president if she has known about Abara from the start. She confirms that she has known all along, identifying her as a vampire fantasy girl and a member of the Order. Desai inquires about the nature of the Order, to which she explains that it is an offshoot of the NSDRI. Despite their animosity towards the Institute, their goals are not entirely different, though their methods tend to be more forceful. As they reach outside a room, she points toward Iriko Rin, describing her as a fantasy girl with the dragon factor, with the code-named Dragon Princess. Rin is nearing the final stages of her rampage, yet she's now married to Desai, who finds himself confused by the thought of marriage to someone marked for execution. Ajita explains the hidden devil that lies within each fantasy girl's powers, an ominous force that emerges and grows as their abilities strengthen, something she calls a willful cancer of the soul. She mentions the red seal on Rin's chest as a mark of this devil. Once it fully develops, it will overtake her mind, driving her into a complete rampage. Ajita describes the phases. First, they lose control of their features, like tails and horns. Then their humanity fades as the devil takes over. In the final phase, they unleash catastrophic power. Desai expresses concern about the outcomes of such transformations, and she informs him that in the case of a dragon, their body temperature can rise significantly, incinerating everything in their vicinity. Desai reflects on how fortunate it is that the Earth continues to exist despite these threats. She clarifies that not everything has been spared. Sometimes, people interpret these rampages as natural disasters, while other times, they blame humanity for the destruction. She explains that intervention is only possible when signs of a rampage begin to manifest, and these interventions occur in a place known as the guillotine. As the conversation progresses, she reveals that when a fantasy girl dies, her fantasy factor transfers to another host, resulting in the birth of a new fantasy girl. This cycle has always been in place. When one falls, another rises. She expresses confidence that the presence of the red seal prevents Rin from moving freely. Desai, alarmed, demands to know if this means Rin will indeed be executed. Ajita confirms that she is now marked for execution, indicated by the ring on his left hand, which is known as the link. It is a mysterious bond, the purpose of which remains partially unknown. Ancient tales suggest that it unites the powers of various fantasy factors, cleansing their past sins and suppressing the devils within these girls. The link is what keeps Rin's rampage at bay. The person responsible for carrying the magical link is known as the linker. Once the linker enters into a contract with the mystical fantasy girl, a special ceremony is conducted to solidify the bond between their souls. This ceremony, akin to a soul wedding, serves as a formal agreement that ties them together. Desai ponders upon all the info, connecting dots in his mind. The establishment of this bond will also affect him, as he shares in some of the fantasy girl's powers and features. As a result, his wounds have healed, a process Ajita attributes to the dragon's injury healing abilities. Grateful, she acknowledges that Desai not only saved a girl but the world itself. However, she adds that though Rin's rampage has been stoked thanks to his involvement, if he were to die, the link would vanish and Rin would enter a rampage once more. This means that Desai's life is no longer solely his own. The NSDRI vows to protect him at all costs, and in a serious tone she urges him to cherish himself more, calling him Desai boy. He assures her that he will do his best, but adds that he won't have to carry this burden alone for the rest of his life. They are working toward a solution that would free the fantasy girls from their features and provide a cure through the construction of a man-made link. While this journey may be filled with hardships, they hope to draw on his strength to rescue these girls. Acknowledging the situation, Desai agrees to join Ajita in her mission. Lost in thought, Desai is jolted back to reality as Ajita suddenly questions his identity, shaking him out of what he quickly dismisses as a strange dream. Deciding to start his morning, he heads to the bathroom, only to be startled by Rin inside. She shouts for him to leave, pointing out that despite being married, he should be mindful. Confused by her presence in his home, Desai is further surprised when Ajita appears, scolding him and confirming that he and Rin will be living together from now on.
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand, I know I walked away.